Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Callanan. I'm a host and producer here on the Seattle channel. I'm here on behalf of the Mayor's Office to moderate a public forum so we can introduce everybody to the three finalists for the Office of Chief of Police for the Seattle Police Department. The three finalists are as follows: Adrian Diaz, Interim Chief of Police right now for the Seattle PD; Kevin Hall, Assistant Chief of the Tucson Police Department; and Eric Greening, Assistant Chief of the Seattle Police Department. So just some quick background here. The Chief of Police is appointed by the Mayor here in Seattle and confirmed by the City Council. And for this forum, the Mayor's Office received more than 150 questions from the public. And from that, 6 comprehensive questions were developed that I will ask all of the candidates. They'll have 5 minutes to respond to each question, but they are not required to take up all that time. I may ask a few follow-ups here and there, but the plan is, as best we can, to provide equal time for all of the candidates. We're going to start with Interim Police Chief Adrian Diaz. It is good to see you, Interim Chief Diaz, and I wanted to ask you the first question here. What policing alternatives do you support? How would you prioritize this work as the Chief of Police?
Yes, since I started my career, I've actually been a supporter of a lot of alternatives to policing. Right off the bat, when we had a number of homicides in South Park, we started a collective impact initiative with the Mayor's Office called the South Park Action Agenda that actually brought a lot of different social services to the community. Because we know that social services investments in our youth will actually help, avoid themselves finding them into the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. And so we helped to build those initiatives from a variety of different things, from jobs to case management to aggression replacement training, a variety of different initiatives. And that all helps the police department because it reduced. We actually went 11 years without a youth-related homicide in that community. We actually built the Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, which I helped co-architect. And then since then, I actually was overseeing the mental health, or our co-responder model with our crisis intervention officers. And we had initially one officer, our one mental health provider that was embedded in our team. Mm-hmm. And I actually was able to increase it by up to 5. And so that has been a huge benefit to have that co-responder model in our department. Then I actually were working to actually establish the Collaborative Policing Bureau when I became an assistant chief. And when I established that Collaborative Policing Bureau, we brought back the CSOs, the community service officers. And the community service officers initially started off at a smaller number than it is true right now. But I had worked with community to get input on what their job duties would be to help really be able to do the follow-up services to officers' work. Because we know that officers are going from call to call to call, and they're not able to provide that level of follow-up. So I've had a history of being able to really have established alternative responses. But then what we're also actually doing is over the last year, we've been working on our Nick Jr. report, which was a report of doing a call analysis for every call for service that we had in our department. Mm-hmm. And we have actually established what we call the Risk Management Demand Project. And that Risk Management Demand Project is really about looking at all calls for service and figuring out what response is the most appropriate response. So we came up with 4 different options on this. So number 1, the first one is an officer response. The second one is an officer response as primary, but with a community partner. And that community partner could be a variety of different things, from mental health worker to a social service worker, as well as maybe even a violence interrupter. So when there is a shooting, say a youth-related shooting, you can have youth or violence interrupter work or credible messengers where people that have had lived experiences can really help reduce that retaliatory shootings. Mm-hmm. And so being able to engage them and have them involved in that call can actually reduce the amount of calls that we might have later on. The other part is that there could be option number 3, which is a social service provider is the primary and the officer is a secondary, provides a secondary element to it. Mm-hmm. You can find this in an encampment where there might be a high propensity for violence, and the social service provider doesn't feel comfortable being in that environment, so they want to make sure there's an officer there, but not necessarily primary and taking full responsibility for providing people into housing or social services, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth option is really just social service provider driven. So it is not needing an officer. And I think there's a number of calls. We've been doing analysis of about maybe 12 to 15% of calls for service that actually can be focused on an alternative response. Mm-hmm. I've been a big proponent of initially Health One and their expansion. But last year I also was also very supportive of what they call triage one, because we also have a number of calls such as person down calls where we have to respond to because the person could be intoxicated, could be on a drug overdose, could be for a variety of reasons why they might be passed out on the side of the street. But when we get there, typically it's not a police response. It might be a medical response. And so, that is one of the things that we want to make sure that we provide the best service in the city, and then it might not be that police officer. So we've been 100% supportive of alternative responses, and really also making sure that we develop a kind of an evidence-based approach to doing the alternative response. This might end up requiring some legislation change. And right now, when we deal with people in crisis, typically on an involuntary treatment act, we actually only have the police officers and a DCR that's actually able to treat people.
Okay.
But we want more people to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I need
you.
to stop you at that point because you had a lot to say clearly
Yes.
about that topic, and I want to make sure we cover all of these here. I'm going to ask you the second question here. What is your plan to address increased violence and the prevalence of firearms in Seattle?
Yeah, so that's a great question because 2 years ago we actually saw, we started seeing the increase in violent crime. We saw the staffing reduction in the department, and right away we tried to make sure that we were getting ahead of it. In 2019, we saw 323 shots fired. Last year, we saw 621. So we almost doubled the amount of shots fired that were in the city. We actually hit a 25-year high in 2020 in regards to homicides. So this is a huge concern. In 2021, we actually saw a reduction of homicides almost by 15%. And a part of that is we took a good analysis. So I look at it this, the way we look at it is what we call CAPE, which is Community, Analytics, Prevention, Environment, Enforcement. Community, it's using community partners, those violence interrupters, the people that are actually able to help reduce the potential violence, or even community partners that are just, calling 911, or, when they see an issue that's coming about. All of that is we have a shared responsibility to address all of our violence. The second thing is analytics. So we look at hotspot policing. We look at identifying those that have a propensity to be the person doing the shooting. And we analyze that. In fact, we've actually done a really good job that 25% of our shootings have a homeless nexus. So how do we address that? And that's one of the things that we're working with the Unified Care Team and addressing those that have those encampments that literally have high propensity for violence. The third thing is prevention, which we are working on extreme risk protection orders, getting guns out of the hands of people that might hurt themselves or hurt others, that we're looking at safe storage, so getting guns that are locked up so that way they're not in the streets. So they might find legislation in that. The fourth thing is environment. So how do you clean up an area? So how do you put lighting in the area, cut back brush? How do you establish areas so people can start walking the community? And then the last thing is emphasis. It's enforcement. It's really going out and trying to make sure that you're focused on an area and then doing that level of enforcement, taking guns off the streets. This year alone, we've actually recovered 875 guns this year. We're on pace to recover the same amount of guns that we had when we had full staffing, when we had over 400 more officers. So officers are working hard every single day, but we've actually been able to really because of the way we're actually addressing this, we've actually been able to recover more guns than we've ever had before.
Got it. Maybe I can ask a quick follow-up here. You were talking about legislation you might be looking for. What might you be looking for that would help with this?
Some of the things that we are paying attention to is when in this year they passed the legislation on magazines where they're
limiting the amount of bullets.
We look at safe storage. So I've testified on safe storage. I've testified on ghost guns as well. So we look at all the legislation that we know that when a gun is actually being used in the streets, how do we actually be able to capture that and say, look, could we have prevented this gun from being in the wrong hands? And so we do look at legislation.
Got it. Okay. City, state level, I know there's a lot going on there. Thank you for breaking that down. The third question is this. Does SPD need a culture change? And if so, how would you go about achieving this?
Short answer is yes. One answer is that there's a positive and a negative culture. Right, things that are positive. You want to be able to really keep up, and we have an EMT program, emergency medical technician program, that people are excited to do, and you want to keep that. You want that to flourish. You want officers engaged and really just passionate about what they do. So that doesn't need to change. But the negative side, where you really create this environment of people that are just not happy with their level of work. It's been a very difficult time over the last 2 years. We've gone through the riots. We lost a precinct. We gained a precinct back. So that's been a very, very tough time on our officers. They've lost their fellow officers that they used to be partners with. And so really you're trying to figure out how do you create that level of wellness. And it's really about making sure that our officers are whole. So we've put in psychologists into our precincts. We've brought in wellness dogs. We're actually doing a variety of different things that really enhance our officers' experience. The other thing that I'm doing is that it really is going to change the way we police and the way we actually train our officers. Is I created it's under my relational policing initiative, the SPD before the badge. So we bring in recruits 45 days prior to the academy and teach them on social emotional learning, brain development, trauma-informed practices. And the other things that we're putting them in an environment where they're actually doing listening sessions with community to understand the history of the community that they're going to be policing. And that is an eye-opener for them. It's an experience that for them to really understand like how they can actually change and be part of the community. And if we hire 100 officers over the next 5 years and communities engaged in this project, that's over half the department that will really have this new level of culture shift. And it's really going to end up really enhancing our ability to build the bridges with our community more than we ever have. So, yes.
I guess just one quick follow-up on that, because we have a little extra time here. SPD and the City of Seattle has been talking about culture change in the police department for some time. And I think you've mentioned some of these programs that might be different, but what is different now? What could you bring that would be different?
Yeah, so even as this SPD before the badge, but we're actually using technology and we're doing a variety of different things for us to really kind of change the dynamic of how we actually look at policing, how we actually enhance our services. So, for example, we built equity, accountability, and quality system. So right now we're taking all of our data on stop data, Terry stop data, and we analyzed it, and we're actually using a new model of propensity score matching where we can actually be able to break down and hold it for certain variables, whether somebody is potentially, bias policing or they're stopping people of color at a higher rate. But it allows us to also do it in real time rather than wait for data that came 2 years ago and then be able to make those changes. The second part of it is we're actually using all of our vehicle data information, so the GPS on our vehicles, and we're identifying how we police, whether it's over-policing a community or under-policing a community, so we can better respond to the community's needs. And then the third component is actually our quality data, which is really taking and analyzing our body cameras and being able to capture the voices and see if there is anything that we're escalating or de-escalating in a situation to really enhance our customer service. So these are game changers to how we're actually doing policing and how we're changing culture.
Okay, thank you for all those pieces. I wanted to talk about the next question here, question number 4. Under your leadership, what will SPD's mission and vision be?
So, I look at it as that I focus our vision under building a beloved community. Martin Luther King used to say that it was a community that was cared for regardless of race or poverty. And we want everyone to feel part of this community. We want everyone to feel like they're engaged and that they're being listened to and they're having that positive interaction with police. Then the second component is the mission. We want to make sure that our officers are compassionate, empathetic, that they're really focused on services and helping others, but they're doing it in an equitable and accountable fashion. And so that's really that mission statement. But how does that look out? So I look at yesterday, we responded to a murder-suicide situation where officers went into a burning house, actually tried to find the victim, and in the course of that, a person came at him with a knife. They did a tactical retreat to try and make sure that they didn't hurt that person. And one of the things that the officers were really struggled with was they felt like, could they have done anything more to try and find the victim? And that's the compassion and empathy that we want in our officers. We want our officers to really try to figure out how do they help people in the midst of chaos. And so I think we're getting there. I think we're really trying to make sure that we train officers to really take that different approach. And I think officers are doing it, they're actually adhering to it. They're actually doing a really good job of finding ways to put tourniquets and chest seals on people and really try to save people's lives. But they're doing it in a compassionate and empathetic approach.
Got it. I'll follow up just on a brief piece of this. In terms of getting buy-in from officers who are new, officers who have been there for a while, when you're talking about a mission and vision, I know that can be difficult sometimes to get that buy-in. I wanted to talk about that. Can you take it from that angle of what officers, how do you get them to buy in on this?
Yeah, so a brand new recruit is going through SPD before the badge. So we're spending time with them 45 days prior to the academy. You think if you talk to police departments across the international world, where you're looking at London and Netherlands, where people are going through the academy 1 to 3 years of academy, and they don't have a gun. And we're giving our officers training in 4.5 months, and we're giving them a gun, hoping that we would have a really good outcome. And so by us actually taking and spearheading a project called SPD Before the Badge, it's actually giving them that extra training. So it is embracing that culture. It is really pushing that culture of compassion and empathy, and also their own level of wellness, because we know that an officer, if they're healthy, they're going to provide a healthy service. And so it really it does focus a lot on the officer as well. Knowing how they come to work and where they're at in their mind will actually create better outcomes for our community.
Great. I don't like giving a police chief orders, but I'm going to take a water break. And
No,
you may
please.
Too, if you would like. I wanted to ask you the next question here, question 5. How will you take on the hiring crisis within SPD and improve the department's recruitment efforts in the current political climate?
Well, I'm going to tell you the first thing that's been a success is 50% of our hires are people of color and women. And that is the highest that we've ever seen in our department that I can ever think of since we've tracked it. So that is exactly, a great approach that we're actually seeing that. We're seeing those kind of numbers. But there's less people applying for our job. So we're getting less applicants. Right now, this generation really are focused on making sure that there's, providing a service and help to others. But sometimes they don't see police as a service and a help to others. And so we really have to make sure that we're branding out that how much we do in the community, how much we serve in the community, and how much we engage. And right now, the mayor and I actually released a plan on our recruiting and hiring. But really the focus, first and foremost, is retaining our good people. We want to put a comprehensive economic package together that is so important that our officers feel valued and respected, that we look at shifts, that actually make it easier for officers to have that time off, to be able to have that rest and recuperation. But we also look at other things that actually engage and keep our officers that are into the job for a little bit longer. And then the other part is making sure that we also have a good pipeline into the department. So working with colleges to make sure that they have programs that help people prepare themselves for policing. But we also want to take a little bit of a different approach in the sense of we have officers that come from all backgrounds. We have officers that have PhDs, and some in philosophy, some in Juris Doctorates, some that have been principals, some that have been engineers. So really you want to get that diversity of thought and diversity of perspective. And so it's not just, I think what we've also done is looked at recruiting in places like criminal justice programs. But it's not just criminal justice programs. We want to actually engage people and say, hey, look, have you ever thought about a career that's really focused on helping people? Yeah. And I think that honestly, that is what's going to help drive our numbers. Right now, it's going to be a rough road, but we're already taking steps to mitigate that rough road while we actually try to hire and gain more officers.
Got it. We have a couple more minutes within this framework here. I know you're trying to reach out to get lateral officers, as they're called, from other departments too. Is the message different there, or how do you do that part of it?
Yeah, we've actually had some lateral officers come from all sorts of parts of the country. We've offered up to $30,000 bonus. And it's almost like a down payment on a house. I think when I first started, so not anymore. But I think that is one of the things that we can actually get people onboarded very quickly. They go through a smaller academy, usually a 2-week academy, and it is something that allows us to be able to deploy officers quickly. So, but what it has to be important is officers have to feel like they're valued and respected. So they're looking and Googling Seattle, and they have to make sure that the messaging when it comes to the news is the right message. And I think right now our community is throwing out a lot of support. We've, because we were able to get the recruiting and hiring plan passed by City Council, that people are expressing their need for more officers, this need of how important are officers. They just want the right trained officers. And I think that will end up being a drawing point for many people across the country. I mean, just recently I swore in an officer from South Carolina, or no, maybe North Carolina.
Okay.
And so we are getting people from all over the country.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for that. Next question. How will you address the department's mistakes when they occur and hold yourself and your employees accountable?
Yeah, I took over during the riots in the midst of August of 2020, and right away I had to acknowledge the impacts and apologize for those impacts that we created in the community. And you know, part of that was trying to rebuild the community's support. And so there was a lot of things that ended up happening. I started having our officers engage in restorative circles, so meeting with people in the community to help reestablish that trust and connection. But right away from the very beginning, I had to acknowledge the problem. And we have to understand that as a police chief, we own the past, the present, and the future. So, you know, yes, whatever happened in the past, that we haven't always been on the wrong side of history. I was speaking with the mayor at the Chinese expulsion event, and we had a unit that actually was engaged in helping expel Chinese. And so you have to be able to acknowledge and apologize for that, for what our history has brought us. And also say, look, this is the stuff that we're doing forward so that never happens again. Yeah. And I think, you know, for us, we want to make sure that we're a learning department, that we always are assessing ourselves, that we're always challenging ourselves for continuous improvement and innovation.
Got it. We have a couple minutes left, again, within this framework that I have, and maybe I can just sum up with this question here. I'm sure it's one that you've thought about. I'm sure it's one that the mayor's thought about, too. Why do you think you're the best person for this job? You know, I've been doing this job for 26 months. I have, started this when we were in the midst of chaos. And I think when you're in the midst of chaos, you really have this opportunity for change. And not only have I feel like we've experienced a lot of the darkest times over the last 2 years. We've had, the pandemic. We've had the George Floyd murder. We had the riots. We had the defund movement. An 11-year officer potentially could lose their job. We've been able to overcome that. We had a staffing challenge. We had a violent crime surge. And then we also had a vaccine mandate. We've had a loss of an officer. So you can imagine all the things that we've been challenged with. But I've led us through those difficult times. But what also, honestly, we've actually put in really innovative programs that are going to change policing and really create an opportunity to better policing that we've never seen across the country. Having SPD before the batch, having our equity accountability, having a new early intervention system that really can identify officers before they become, before they generate a complaint, before they end up, which is our Officer Accountability Trust Hub. So we're doing things that actually is going to lead us into where we need to be. So I laid the groundwork, I laid the foundation for us. But not only am I going to lay the foundation, I'm really going to make sure that our department is really moving forward on making sure that this city is the best policed city in the country and also the safest city in the country, because that is our charter responsibility. Got it. Thank you very much. That's Adrian Diaz. He's the interim police chief of the Seattle Police Department. Up next, we'll be hearing from Kevin Hall, assistant chief of the Tucson Police Department. Thanks very much for watching, folks. You're watching a public forum with all three candidates for the next Seattle Chief of Police right here on Seattle Channel. And welcome back, everybody, to our public forum. We're introducing you to all three of the candidates for the office of the Chief of Police for the Seattle Police Department. And right here, I am with Kevin Hall. He is an Assistant Chief of the Tucson Police Department. Assistant Chief Hall, thank you very much for taking the time here. I'm going to go through this list of questions here with you, like I have with the other candidates. And I wanted to ask the first one. What policing alternatives do you support, and how would you prioritize this work as the Chief of Police here in Seattle?
Well, when you say policing alternatives, I assume you mean alternatives to call response. So I've been sort of working in this particular area for quite a while now. So I've been an assistant chief for going on 6 years and implemented a lot of these programmatic type responses in Tucson and been across the country teaching and presenting on these. So what I would say that I support are any of the alternatives that have some sort of evidence-based, science-informed, data-driven foundation. That can be tough in this space because they're new and there's not a lot of evaluation, but it's starting to come out. So paying attention to what actually works and what doesn't cause harm with these types of programs is super important. Things along the lines of looking at different ways to have the officers respond to substance misuse, for example, pre-arrest deflection programs where you're offering or you're giving the officers the opportunity to offer treatment instead of arrest and incarceration. But I always say it's super important that the officers have the discretion. It's their decision to make, depending on the investigation, what's best right then and there for the community, for the officer, and for the individual that they're engaging. Yeah. Many individuals are not ready to engage in treatment. They don't want to. So that's all a part of it. But that's just another tool for the officers to use to resolve a problem that they're faced. Yeah. Same with behavioral health. There are multiple different programs out there depending on the capacity of the jurisdiction. And there's a lot of capacity, quite frankly, in Seattle to implement a lot of this stuff where behavioral health crisis response does not have to be a police officer. It absolutely doesn't. And there are places such as Tucson and other places in the country where it is an unarmed crisis clinician team that goes to these calls, not police. You have to be very careful. You have to be aware of how those calls come out and be very much aware of how your calls are being triaged in the center. Another, I would call it an alternative response, is actually putting crisis clinicians in the 911 center. And we've done that in Tucson, and we've had a great deal of success with it. Houston does that. Charlotte-Mecklenburg does that. Other jurisdictions do it, and they also are finding a great deal of success by having clinicians in the 911 center, which, quite frankly, is the gateway to the criminal justice system. There's a lot of collateral benefits to things like that as well. It helps the call takers become better at triaging calls, at recognizing callers who are in crisis, and so forth. Another thing we noticed in Tucson is they're really, really good at de-escalating panicked, hysterical callers who are in a very bad situation. So there's a great deal of benefit to those type of alternatives, not just in call response. But behavioral health overall is key. And substance misuse is a part and parcel to that. Yeah. So finding thoughtful, like I said, science-informed, evidence-based programs that you measure and you track, that's also important to ensure that you're not causing more harm than good. And if you don't measure it and you don't track it, it doesn't get done.
We have about a minute or so left on this piece here. I just wanted to ask a little bit about launching this. Was that a difficult thing to do, to get a program like this in place? Because I know Seattle has had some struggles with this over the past year or so.
It's very difficult. It takes a great deal of collaboration. It takes a lot of community support and, quite frankly, community participation. Funding is always going to be an issue depending on where your jurisdiction is at with funding. I know Washington is a Medicaid expansion state. A lot of this can fall under billable hours, depending on how you set it up with your service providers. Generally, crisis clinicians are third party. They don't work for the city, so they have their own funding mechanisms through the state. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's very complex, but it can be done, and it is being done in other places. Okay. That means it can be done in Seattle.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let me ask the second question here. What is your plan to address increased violence and the prevalence of firearms in Seattle?
That's a great question because I've spent probably the last 2 years working on a violence reduction, specifically a gun violence reduction plan for Tucson that we are implementing. It's a comprehensive systems model plan. And regardless of what you're doing, I would say you at least have to have some sort of framework or plan. Once again, and you'll see a common theme here, I have a great deal of foundational respect for academia. We have 3 decades of research that shows that hotspot policing works. It works if it's done right. It can be harmful if it's done wrong. So you have to be very much aware of what's being done in the hotspots, how you're getting to the hotspots, what the actions are in the hotspots, how long officers are in there, dosage, if they're in there too long, if they're in there not enough time, and what they're doing there. All of that has to be intentional, and it has to be laid out, and it has to be structured. But hotspots works, and that's been proven over and over and over. Some other components of this plan include things with less research based, but also very promising, is something called place network investigations. So that's a longer term strategy where you go in and you look at the environment of a hotspot. And when I talk about hotspots, I'm talking about very small micro locations, 500 meters of a street segment. These are not big neighborhoods. And you're looking at the environment. What's driving crime there? Is it lighting? Is it blight? Is it vacant lots? Whatever it is, that's a part of the analysis. And then you have criminal investigators go in there and you look at the offenders who are there and the behavior in conjunction with the environment. And that way you build in sustainability. Police are very good at going in short term, stamping out crime, but as soon as they leave, that all comes back. What P&I, or Place Network Investigations, does is it starts to take care of those root causes that are in that particular area so that it doesn't come back when the officers move on to the next area. That's another part of it. The last one I want to mention, and there are several more, but this is key, is community-based violence intervention. Once again, the research is all over the place with this, but there is some promise being shown in other places, particularly in Chicago, some other larger municipalities. But it's the community coming in, credible messengers, some people call them violence interrupters, who have lived experiences, who can be trained to mediate at the street level disputes, to intervene, to prevent shootings, and to actually engage with the community, mentor youth, and keep the shootings from occurring because they're aware of what's happening and they have the credibility to intervene, and people will listen to them because they have that lived experience. So they can be unwieldy, these programs, and they take a great deal of coordination and facilitation. And once again, funding comes in. Who's going to pay for it? Where does the money come from? And who's going to oversee it? I would submit it should not be the police department, because credibility erodes as soon as if people think they're working for the police department. So another city entity, perhaps, or a third party, an intermediary who can work with that group. But they have to be supported by police and the city as well.
Got it. Another minute stray here. I just want to make sure I gave you the time. Is a program that the work that you've been doing in Tucson, do you see it as transferable here to Seattle? I know they're different cities, but they're both big cities, and I wanted to talk about that. What do you think about that?
I do. I think it is transferable because it's absolutely transferable from Chicago to New York, and New York is also doing really great things, and it's transferable from New York to Dallas, and Dallas is getting a lot of attention right now because of their plan, and they have a lot of components that are similar to the components in my plan. It's all very transferable. You just have to be able to tweak and modify it to the jurisdiction you're in, because every place has a little bit of a different flavor, a little bit of a different political will, and quite frankly, different community expectations. And you have to be sensitive to those community expectations. Yeah. You police at the will of the community.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that. I wanted to talk about the third question we have here. Does SPD, the Seattle Police Department, need a culture change? And if so, how would you go about achieving this?
Quite frankly, over the past couple of years, I would say not just SPD, but most large major metropolitan police agencies are undergoing culture change at varying levels and varying paces. Whether SPD needs a culture change or not, I suspect they are also undergoing a culture change. A new leader, regardless of who it is, leaders are change agents. And if they're not, then I would submit they're not much of a leader. But that's what leadership does. They are constantly looking for a way to keep the organization relevant to their customer base, the community. That's going to require organizational culture transformation and change constantly. You're constantly looking at how relevant you are to the community you serve. I would submit that that happens incrementally with some awareness of where the culture is now and where you want the culture to be, shared with the agency, the staff. They have to buy into to where you want to go with the culture, and it has to be back and forth. I can say we need to change our culture, we need to change our norms and our values, and we're going to do it, and I can put it on a poster and put it up on the walls, but that's all it's going to be if there's no buy-in. I have to get line level staff buy-in for there to be actual meaningful change.
Yeah. How do you do that? Have you been through this kind of process in Tucson?
Oof, yes.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yes, it's difficult. It's particularly difficult. One of the programs I mentioned before, pre-arrest deflection, that is a transformational change in how police officers do their job. Even though it's completely up to them, it's not mandatory, they can choose to do it or they don't have to do it. It's still fundamentally different when the primary problem-solving skill that we've given police for years is arrest and incarcerate. Now we're giving them a different tool. That's a change. And so you have to work through that with them, and you have to, we're dealing with folks here who have very deeply held beliefs, and but they're rational. They're rational actors, and they understand that community expectations change. That we simply don't have the staffing to arrest and book every single person who has a minute amount of drugs in them, and particularly if there's another avenue. Even if it gets them, even if it's not successful, the treatment, and we know treatment is not always successful, at least it's another way for the officer to get that person off the street into treatment for the night, at least starting the process, the intake process, but then they're not going to be a problem for the rest of the evening. And quite frankly, that's the same thing with jail. And they're in and out, and you go through that cycle, and you're still not solving the problem. Yeah. At least with this type of program, you're taking steps to hopefully do some long-term problem resolution with the individual.
Okay. Thank you for breaking down those pieces about culture change. I'm going to have a sip of water, and feel free if you'd like to there.
Okay, thanks.
Assistant Chief Hall. I wanted to ask this next question here. Under your leadership, what will SPD's mission and vision be if you're selected as chief?
Sure. The mission is probably going to be pretty similar to what it already is, and what many public safety agencies have as their mission, and that's to ensure a safe and secure community in Seattle with the community, meaning that ensuring public safety is co-produced with the public that we are working with. Any police department is not going to achieve that goal, I submit, without the community support and the community's help. I think we've seen over the past 50 years that the police department cannot do it on its own. They need the community's investment, they need the community's support, and quite frankly, to try and do it without the community is not going to work.
Is there and this is another multi-billion-dollar question, how do you get that community support? How do you get that community buy-in to the police department and the mission and the vision you're talking about?
It's trust. It comes down to trust and legitimacy. So I have to be authentic and sincere in my relationships with the community. I have to be completely transparent. And I had this conversation with someone earlier, Chuck Ramsey, former chief in a couple of major cities, made it very clear that bad news is not like wine. It doesn't get better with age. If you have bad news, you need to get it out there. If you have something that does not look good and it smells bad, you need to get it out there. The community deserves to know. and then you own it, and you hold people accountable, including yourself. If there was a failure because I didn't provide the proper equipment or the proper policy or the proper training to my officers, then that failure is mine and the executive leadership team. So the accountability goes all the way up and all the way down. The other thing you talked about is vision. So my vision would be a shared vision. Once again, I can throw a vision up on a poster, put it on the wall. That's all it's ever going to be if it's not shared by my staff, by my employees at every level, in every rank, professional staff or sworn staff. So I have to build a vision. I have my own vision that this would be the premier law enforcement agency in the Pacific Northwest, if not nationally. And there's a lot of different ways I think we could do that. And one of the reasons I am here and only here, and I have not put in for a job anywhere else, is because I see the potential in Seattle to be able to do that. They have all of the foundational requirements to be the best public safety agency in the nation. So that would be my vision. Now I need to get my officers, my sergeants, my lieutenants, my command staff, my people in records and evidence, and all of them on board with the same thing. And I think that's pretty easy to do because I think they're already there. They're ready to take that step and say, yeah, we are the best and we can be the best, and here's how we're going to do it.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'll move on to the next question here. How will you take on the hiring crisis within the Seattle Police Department and improve the department's recruitment efforts in the current political climate? Please.
Perfect. It's a good segue from the last question because that's a part of it. There has to be internal pride. If I had this conversation with some officers yesterday, it all starts with them, with the officers who are doing the work on the streets. They have to have the pride in the organization and what they're doing, and they do great work. And the community never gets to see the fantastic, great work that happens daily. I was out with a very impressive officer yesterday for several hours, and there was really good work being done, and caring, humane, good work. It'll never see the light of day. Nobody will ever know it besides myself and that officer. But having that pride and being able to express that to the community, to everybody, when you go in and get a cup of coffee and you carry that pride with you, that is contagious. And it's contagious amongst the officers. Just like negative attitudes, cynicism, that's contagious as well. So we kind of have to root that out and replace it with pride in what we're doing, pride in the patch that's on their shoulder, and in the badge that's on their breast. Once you get that going, then you can start doing some brand positioning. You can start showing how Seattle PD is so much more different than the surrounding agencies, the state agencies, the regional agencies. This is the premier law enforcement agency in the Pacific Northwest. It should be the greatest draw for recruits. They should be compensated in that fashion. They should have the best equipment, the best cars, the best IT, the best software, because this is the best agency in the Pacific Northwest. So that should be reflected in everything we do. So the recruitment would be about brand positioning, about that sort of organic, holistic look at who we are and what we do and how we engage with the community so that it's contagious, so that the community feels pride about what SPD is and where it's going and what the outcome's going to be. There are other technical issues, big technical issues that I've noticed, one of which is we could hire 100 applicants right now. We can't get them through the one academy that the state has. I see that as a huge issue and a concern, and something that we, should I end up in Seattle, is something that we really need to address with the state and the other surrounding agencies, and that's the a regional academy, and something that we can have a little bit more say in how many people we can put through there every quarter, or at least 2 or 3 times a year, so that we can funnel these recruits through. Because like I said, right now we could hire all of these different people. We can't get them through the academy.
Yeah. We have 1 minute left on this question. I just wanted to know, I know it's a challenge around the country for police departments to retain officers, to keep them around. Have you been dealing with something like this in Tucson? What's it been like down there for you?
It is. It is a national issue. It is a problem. It stems from, quite frankly, what I would say is we in law enforcement, myself included, have kind of gone through an identity crisis over the past couple of years. The narrative out there is such that you really question why you're still doing this job, particularly somebody like me who can retire. So anybody who is retirement eligible and they stuck around, then my hat's off to them. And any of the officers who did stick with it and put their head down and said, we'll get through this, they have my utmost respect, because it's been a hard, tough road. There's been a lot of soul searching, both by community and by the officers. But it comes down to is they need to feel supported. They need to feel supported by their community. They need to feel supported by their executive leadership, up to and including myself. And they need to be supported by their elected officials. That's important. And if they don't get that, no matter how well compensated I submit somebody is, they will leave if they feel they're not supported and validated by the people they're working for.
Got it. Thank you. I'll move on to our next question here, and you touched on this earlier, but I'd like to follow up with it. How will you address the department's mistakes when they occur, and how will you hold yourself and your employees accountable?
I did touch on this, but I'll expand on it a little bit. I'm kind of known as a straight shooter. I don't have a lot of patience for disingenuity and trying to do a lot of framing and massaging of a message, and it is what it is, and you just put it out there. And if somebody screws up, if I screw up, we have to own it. That's the expectation, and that's the expectation I would lay out on day one. We can't try and hide mistakes. We can't try and shove them under the carpet, so to speak. If it's a mistake and there's no harm that occurred, or it's very little, then we can deal with that. And we can look at it from a training standpoint, from a policy standpoint, from a whole host of different things that we can do. If it's something where somebody got hurt, then obviously some of our decisions are outcome-based. And so we have to deal with it in that fashion, and that comes down to both the expectations of the community and the expectations of leadership. So I guess what I would say is there will be accountability, as I said before, up and down the chain. If I screw up, I will let everybody know, from Mayor Harrell right down to the brand new cop on the beat, that I screwed up. And how I did it, and how I'm going to fix it.
Okay. Got it.
And that goes for all of my staff as well.
Got it. Can you give me an example of dealing with a situation like this in Tucson?
Like?
In dealing with holding yourself or your employees accountable?
Sure. I'm sure I've been in policing almost 31 years, so there are several. But probably the biggest is, let me think of how I can put this. Some of these are sensitive still.
I see. Okay.
Almost always they involve personnel. So generically speaking,
maybe that would be a good way to approach it. Sure.
Yes. There are times when I could have handled things with staff in a much different way, more thoughtful and sensitive to the impact that sometimes these outcomes have on them, their families, their well-being, the mental well-being. These are super stressful issues. And so I need to be cognizant of that, and I've grown cognizant of that, but some of my mistakes I've made is I wasn't cavalier, but I perhaps didn't do enough to ensure that the employee received all of the services that they needed to receive given the severity of the outcome. And I have definitely learned from that.
Okay, thank you. I know that's a sensitive topic. I appreciate you engaging with that. There's one more question I just wanted to follow up with. I'm sure you've had this in the back of your head in looking after this position, but why do you think you're the best person for this job?
I think you have three excellent candidates, quite frankly. I am the best person for this job if the community believes that change is necessary in Seattle. And when we talk about change, I mean, we talked about these things: organizational change, mission change, vision change. One of the things when you bring in an outside chief that I've seen is that's what you get, a perspective that's a little bit different. You also get a blank slate on relationships. I have to build relationships from the get-go, ground up, where the other candidates have relationships with all of these people. That's going to be difficult, but there's also advantages to that as well. I don't have all the baggage that comes with those relationships of 20 or 25 years when you're growing up inside of an agency, or relationships with, you know, the union, or relationships with people at City Hall. Or, I mean, sometimes there's damage that has been done, and people are ready for a fresh start. Am I the best candidate? I'll leave that up to the folks who make the selection and the community, but I can say I will give 100% to this community. I picked Seattle because it's a community I feel it's worth investing my time and moving my family here, and I have not put in for a chief's job in any other city. This was an intentional, thoughtful reach out to finish my career. This is the pinnacle of my career. I have no plans to go anywhere else. This is where I will end my police career.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. This is Kevin Hall, Assistant Chief with the Tucson Police Department. Thank you very much for joining me. You're watching this public forum with all three candidates for the next Seattle Chief of Police. Up next is Eric Greening, Assistant Chief of the Seattle Police Department. Again, stick with us right here on Seattle Channel. We will come back with him in just a moment. And we are back as we continue our public forum here as we introduce you to the three candidates for the office of Chief of Police for the Seattle Police Department. Our third and final candidate is Eric Greening, an Assistant Chief of the Seattle Police Department. Thank you very much for being here, Eric. I'm going to jump right into it. The first question we have, what policing alternatives do you support and how would you prioritize this work as the Chief of Police?
Well, first, thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here. I have great passion for alternative responses. I think it's clear since 2020. The community is clear. We want different options for 911 response. Currently, I inherited the Collaborative Policing Bureau, And within the Bureau, I am currently leading the community service officers. Right now, we have about 20 of them, 4 supervisors, and I would like to see the unit grow. That unit was around when I first came on the department almost 30 years ago. They were very helpful, very nice alternative conduit for community outreach, and they took a call load that helped us out in patrol. It was very useful. Of course, it went away for a while due to budget cuts. It's back, and when I came into the unit, we were trying to figure out what are the priorities? What do we need them to do? There was some debate about how do we go forward with the unit. I've been working with the mayor's office on crafting a vision going forward, submitted a proposal myself. Just 2 days ago, the council and the mayor's office came to an agreement on working on alternative responses. I'll be right there with them, providing support and collaboration to get this figured out by the end of the year. I think it will help with officer burnout. It will build trust with the community, have alternative responses. Also, crime prevention coordinators, as well as our crisis response unit, which I'm in charge of. And that's an officer and a mental health professional in the same car. I think it's a great program. And on this issue, I want to make it clear, as chief of police, my job is public safety. So if these resources are outside the department, I'm in support of it. If it's inside, I'll lead the program. Either way, I want it to be successful.
Got it. You mentioned it helps out patrol and a few other things here too. Can you take me bigger picture here, if you could, Assistant Chief Greening, and tell me just why programs like this are needed from a police officer's perspective? Let me know that.
Police officers, they come on and like, we need to change the culture. The advertisement is action all the time, right? And it doesn't turn out to be that way. So we take a variety of calls from life safety all the way down to minimal calls. What would be nice is to have the community service officers be able to be dispatched primary to those non-criminal events. That would cut down the wait time when folks are calling 911. They can get a community service officer there to help them navigate whatever issue they have if it's non-criminal. Also, that frees the officers up to deal with violent crime. I think the officers would appreciate some support and help right now, especially now with reduced resources.
Got it. And just because we have 1 minute left in this topic, if I could with you, and just trying to work on some of these different behavioral issues, substance abuse issues.
Yes.
I know that's a big piece of this too.
Yes, with the crisis response unit right now, there's 5 sworn officers, there's 5 mental health professionals. I would love to see the unit double in size. They do great work. Their hearts are in it. I just sat down and spoke to them just a couple weeks ago, and they are really committed, and they love the work. They feel like they're making a change and keeping people safe.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question here with you. What is your plan to address increased violence and the prevalence of firearms in Seattle?
Thank you for that question. My approach would be data-driven, evidence-based strategies. Of course, with input from the community, that qualitative data, so to speak, and collaboration with governmental partners, city departments, social service agencies. What's important is focus. I'll give you an example. Right now, there are 3 hot spots in the city. Bitter Lake area, which is basically an area from about 105th up to North 145th. Anyone that drives through there now knows there are problems. There have been a number of homicides in the last 4 or 5 months. There's a general sense of disorder. The downtown core, as everyone knows, the Chinatown International District, and Soto. My plan with my limited resources is a place-based approach. You concentrate on those areas. The random patrolling, the 911 response, it's not working. So we go in. These are all strategies I've been involved in from officer all the way up to assistant chief. It works. You put the cops in the area. They are not there for a broken windows type of enforcement. They're there for presence. They make social contacts and reach out to community and build relationships while they're there. And people that don't want to do the right thing, they usually move on. And with finite resources, we have to cool the area down and work with our city partners and social services agencies and bring them in to kind of triage the area after we get it calmed down. That would be my approach to it. As far as gun violence, we're going to work with ATF. We work with them on the National Ballistics Information Network, trying to collect all these shell casings that we're picking up and hopefully get them in a database to connect various crimes and felons who steal these weapons.
Got it. Can I come in with one more question just because we have a little more time involved here, if I could? I know every neighborhood is different, but do you have an idea why we're seeing this increase in gun violence and gun crime out there? Some thoughts about that?
There are a number of factors. I think COVID had a big effect on it. I just looked at some numbers in the last 2 years. We're up about 18% violent crime and shots fired. A good number of shots fired have to do with encampments. I think the lack of people just every day about their business, going to lunch or out handling their business or coming into the office, gives the space and opportunity for some people to cause mayhem. And I think going forward, we need to really concentrate on those prolific offenders, identify people who are victims, or usually there's been a perception, I agree with it, it's a health issue, right? People who are shot, there's a good chance they might shoot someone going down the street, right? It's a network of folks that we have to concentrate on, not so much get caught up in the firearms, but who are the people that are at risk, and we bring to the table other people like community passageways and the regional peacekeepers to try to mitigate some of that where we can't as the police department. And I would make sure I bring everybody to the table to try to mitigate the shots and also get the very violent felons off the street.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to move on to the next question here with you. Does SPD need a culture change? And if so, how would you go about achieving this?
I do think we need a culture change, and I'll set it up this way. I've worked for 3 different departments. The first 10 years had a certain culture, the second 10 years a different culture, and now after the settlement agreement, it changes, right? We're supposed to be a learning organization. So the culture should be shifting in an iterative process, right? I think the culture change now, what we need is, we talk about officer morale. Officer morale won't improve unless we increase the morale of the leadership from the top down. I could do everything I can in the world for an officer, but if the sergeants, lieutenants, and captains aren't happy with their job, that's going to trickle down. So it starts at the top, and a lot of that has to do with engagement, giving people the opportunity to have voice about what it is that they need to make their jobs better, what leadership can do for them to improve their body of work. How can we keep them safe? How can we give them the tools to keep the community safe? I think the culture needs to stay, or the settlement agreement got us there, right? It needs to be innovation, not reaction. We don't want to go backwards with the settlement agreement. We're full and effective compliance in 3 out of 4 areas. I want to meet that and exceed it going forward. And I think the officers can do it. They want to do it. The folks that stay with us, they're great people, and I so appreciate them staying with us so far. And I think they just want to be heard. They want some affirmation and validation. And I think if we can do that consistently, that'll slow the amount of people that are going out the door.
Got it. We're going to talk about recruitment and retention in a little bit, but I wanted to follow up on this piece. You mentioned you've been in 3 different departments, but you were talking about one department, actually, Seattle PD. And I know this idea of culture change has been brought up before over the past several years. What's different this time around? How could you make that process different if indeed you were trying to push across something like culture change?
I think I'm looking to work for that 4th department, right? I want to change the culture into another phase, and that phase is graduating from the DOJ settlement agreement and not having department culture change happen because there's been some type of scandal or a reactionary policies put in place because we made a mistake. I want to keep pushing forward to try to reach excellence. We might never ever get there, but we're always moving forward. And I think the community, they need direction, order, and protection. Officers need the same thing. So as chief of police, my job is to lead. I need to educate the public. I need to educate the officers. And I think also to help create trust within the building, we need to have procedural justice inside the department as well as in the community. I cannot expect an officer to go out and treat people with procedural justice if they don't feel like they're being treated justly inside the department. So I think I can do that as chief.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll move on to the next question. Under your leadership, what will SPD's mission and vision be?
I think I'm not quite the wordsmith guy. I'm pretty much to the point. First thing is public safety, right? And public safety through collaboration with community, our non-governmental entities, our federal partners, state partners, the prosecutor's office, working together in one direction and trying to reduce harm and keep people safe and do it in a constitutional way. I think as far as vision I have for the department is to create an environment where if I'm in my neighborhood in North Seattle, I'm walking down the street with my daughter and the dog and I feel comfortable. You can't be 100% safe all the time, but you should be able to walk down the street in this city and feel reasonably safe and not have a fear of crime. And that's where we got to get to in this city again. I think there's a perceived perception of crime in some areas, and there's really bad crime in some areas. And I just want to level that out. I want some transparency on it. I think the vision is balance between public safety and having compassion for those out here and also holding them accountable. So I think the vision aligns with Mayor Harrell's of One Seattle, working together with our other city departments and just working together all together. I think public safety is a responsibility of every city department, and we're all supposed to work collaboratively to do that.
Got it. And when you talk about vision and mission, and I've talked about this with the other candidates too, there's a certain buy-in that needs to happen within the department and from the public too. Can you tell me about how you might achieve that?
Clarity, and keep it simple. Our key performance indicator for success is whether crime is going up or down. And then that's quantitative, and qualitative is how do people feel about it? Those are key performance indicators. As far as the clarity, as far as how we get that done, we want to make sure we're doing it within the confines of the law, right? And I don't think you need to make it very complicated. That's what people want. They want crime to go down. And I think if we keep repeating that to our officers, your job is to make people safe, give them some type of respect, have some compassion, be helpful, be stewards and system navigators of city services. I think we can do that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll move on to the next question here. How will you take on the hiring crisis within the SPD and improve the department's recruitment efforts in the current political climate?
In the last 2 years, I saw the way the numbers were going, and I've lost quite a few mentors, friends, mentees, great people going out the door, and it hurts. They're there one day and they're gone. I think what we can do, first, it goes back to the procedural justice issue. If we can get our house in order, showing officers some appreciation, they can talk to their friends and family and say, come and join us, right? We don't want our officers working against us if we're trying to get people to come in the door. We want to create an environment where they want to stay and they want to tell other people to come. Now, as far as hiring, we need to be innovative. We need to start working with webinars, which is a force multiplier. I mean, they use it in the private sector and academia. The old idea of putting someone on a plane with a table and some brochures, that's a bygone method. We have to be innovative. I'll make sure as chief we work with the newly appointed individuals in Human Resources Department and coordinate and be innovative. I went back to school to get a certification in human resources and diversity, equity, inclusion to try to speak that language and understand what's happening out here in the world in employment. I think to create that environment where people are happy to come to work, I think that will help. And of course, it will also help if the labor issues get sorted out. We're following behind other agencies and other agencies with lower cost of living. And we really got to move quickly on that.
Yeah, labor issues is a big one, and I just wanted to ask on that to try to follow up. I know it's a very big issue, but with a minute or so that we have left within this time frame here, how do you wrestle with that very big issue?
I think the mayor's hiring and recruitment plan is right on point. It's what we need. Where it gets complicated is the retention piece. And since I'm not currently chief of police, I'm not privy to some of the discussions at the bargaining table. What I can say is what we can do as leaders of the department, what I would do, it's about engagement. Just like I said, you go to your people, you talk to them in groups, you bring them in individually and say, how can we fix this? What do you need? What would you like to see? Is it something as simple as, hey, this officer works first watch hours. Chief, can I get third watch hours? It'll work better for my family. If that's low-hanging fruit, if we can do it, we need to do it. We can't be passive and just watch people go out the door and say, we need help. We have to get in there with our people and try to retain them ourselves as leaders in the department.
Got it. Thank you. I know that's a thorny issue, and I appreciate you engaging with it. I'm going to ask this next question here. How will you address the department's mistakes when they occur and hold yourself and your employees accountable if you get this job?
I've had time at every rank to be involved in disciplinary issues as a supervisor and leader. I spent amount of time as a lieutenant in our Office of Police Accountability. I know the inner workings of the accountability system in the department. I've participated in the Sentinel event review on the occurrences in 2020, the way SPD's handled that. I've worked with the OIG. I have a relationship with people in the CPC. I've made a connection already with Director Betts. I think we have to be transparent. We have to be transparent. We have to be fair in our discipline. We need to be expeditious in handling our cases. And when we make a decision about discipline, when I make a decision about discipline, I need to own it. It's not the command staff, it's the chief's discipline. I'm the only person in the department that can impose discipline. I have to be able to articulate it. I also will say this, I am a proponent of the recent legislation to change how we investigate a chief of police. I think that's important. Also for officer morale. They want to know, well, if I get a complaint, why is it this way? And when the chief gets a complaint, it's that way. So I think it'll help build trust. And if I'm wrong, I will say it. I own it. I won't say the department did it. Chief Greening owns it. And if there is an allegation of unethical or illegal behavior, I would welcome an investigation. I own it.
Yeah, I guess this is another question of buy-in, and I know this is a difficult thing with some officers. How do you get officers to buy in with that level of transparency? Some thoughts there.
They need information. Right now, we're a bit siloed. We have recommendations coming to us from the Office of Inspector General. We have closed case summaries coming from OPA. We have recommendations coming to the Community Police Commission. Now, officers are kind of in the dark. They don't quite know how all the mechanisms work. And in collaboration, I hope, with SPOG, we can really educate them on what the community is saying about the department, what's happened in the past, how we can correct our mistakes. We have to make all that information accessible to the officers, and it shouldn't just go out to the public, and we aren't actually telling our officers, here's where we made a mistake, and here's where we can improve. They need to know that. It shouldn't be where there's a lack of knowledge, they start to make things up and fill in the gaps. And I want to change that.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one last question here I wanted to make sure I said to you, because I've asked the other candidates here too. Why do you think you're the best person for this job?
Thank you for that question. I've been here 28 years. Out of the 7 assistant chief positions, I've held 5 of them. I've held positions as a patrol chief, and during that time I was able to drive crime down. I was able to raise officer proactivity. As a precinct captain in the South Precinct, I was able to drive crime down about 15%. I've worked almost in every part of the department in some kind of a way. OPA, I worked with the Force Review Board. I've had tactical assignments in narcotics and anti-crime. I have credibility. I have the qualifications, the know-how to know the inner workings of the department. Also, from a professional standpoint, an educational standpoint, I've gone back to school, worked hard, tried to improve myself. My lived experiences inform the way I see my job. I think all that makes me a great candidate. I think I'm qualified. I think I am the right person to be the next chief of police. I will say that openly. I think I'm ready. If I'm selected, I'm ready to go. There's not a learning curve. I have some vision. I want to get it done, and I want to work towards the mayor's vision of One Seattle.
All right, thank you very much. This is Assistant Chief Eric Green from the Seattle Police Department, our third and final candidate here on this public forum. Thank you very much. Time to wrap up here. So here's the deal here, folks. The mayor will be meeting with all three of these candidates on Friday, September 16th. If you would like to provide feedback on the candidates, you can do so by completing a survey. And we'll show you a website, a link right on your screen right now. The bit.ly link is right here. So bit.ly/SPD Police Chief Survey. Once again, bit.ly/SPD Police Chief Survey. The mayor's appointment is subject to a background check by the Washington State Patrol. You should anticipate an announcement about this position coming up in early October. And after this live event, the recording will be available on the Seattle Channel website, seattle.gov. I'm Brian Callanan. Thanks for watching this special presentation of the public forum of all three Seattle Police Chief candidates right here on Seattle Channel.